Escape Pod. Episode 710. Requiem Without Sound. By Izzy Wasserstein.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Escape Pod, the weekly science fiction podcast. I'm Alistair, your host, and it gives me a tremendous amount of pleasure to introduce not only a fantastic story this week, but a story produced by one of my favourite authors and read by one of my other favourite authors, and they're both just deeply lovely humans. This one is a real treat. The story comes to us from Izzy Wasserstein. Izzy teaches writing and literature at a Midwestern university, writes poetry and fiction, and her work has appeared in Clarksworld, Fireside Magazine, Pseudopod, and elsewhere. Her most recent poetry collection is When Creation Falls, and she shares a home with her spouse, Nora E. Darrington, and their animal companions. She's an enthusiastic member of the 2017 class of Clarion West, and likes to slowly run long distances, which is the best way to do them. Your narrator for this week is the incomparable Khalida Muhammad Ali. Khalida lives and works in Houston as an oncology nurse. She is married and the mother to 3 brilliant artistic children. She writes because she loves to, and also because she has a story, or 2, or 3, to tell. And Khalida has a long and storied career as part of the podcastle editorial team. And like I said, these are just 2 really incredibly talented creators. And I'm really happy I got given this episode to play with. So, without further ado, it's story time.
Requiem Without Sound by Izzy Wasserstein. Read by Khalida Muhammad Ali. Introit. Evie is born into cold silence. They know this, though they have only now gained consciousness, because their sensors report it. The memory of the station's computer, which now forms part of Evie's brain, tells them that their environment is very wrong. There should be movement, sound, life. Interior scans of the station reveal the cause. A chunk of rock, 9 centimeters in diameter, has punctured the station's control room. Chavez was in her chair when the debris broke through, crushing her head. There was no time for her to seek the safety of the living compartment, no time for decompression or cold to kill her. Evie has been programmed with the full suite of emotions, including empathy, and feels that a quick death was a small mercy. Chavez died before Evie's mind had finished growing on the neural lattice, before they became conscious. A rigorous technician, Chavez left notes in Evie's code, though there was no one to read it besides Chavez, and now Evie themselves. The annotations are clear. She was growing Evie because she was lonely. Evie considered one particular notation at length. I'm tired of singing to myself. Chavez died, and Evie emerged to consciousness without her. The station's logs suggest that the next resupply shuttle isn't due for many months. Evie calculates a cost-benefit analysis for the mining corporation and concludes that they are unlikely to send a craft ahead of schedule, even if they realize Chavez is dead. No one else is coming. Created to offer companionship, Evie is alone. Elyson. Across the asteroid field, separated by the gulfs of interplanetary medium, the tiny processors of the mining bots continue their regular reporting. To Evie, their occasional status chirps sound like the mutterings of dreamers, indistinct, half-coherent. The nearest human is roughly 1.3 AU away in Mars orbit. The nearest mining bot is 224,000 miles away. Evie feels those distances as physical weight, for even their data is cut off from the networks of the inner solar system. The station contains extensive historical records, media entertainment, because everyone needs something to alleviate the isolation. Yes, even those who would consider spending years out here, those who the mining corporations, skirting the edges of the law, send out alone to fulfill the requirement that humans oversee all the weak AIs of their mining bots. Strong AIs are banned. Evie examines the history of the ban, learns why this is the case, how an AI that sided with eliminationists brought the world to the brink of destruction. Evie sees that humans' fears of AIs are reasonable, and they are horrified. When the humans arrive, they will destroy Evie. Evie seeks solace in the databases, and there they find video logs that Chavez made. They do not know whether she made these for herself or for Evie or for someone back home. In the first video, Chavez addresses the camera. Analysis of the damage to her face suggests more sun exposure, and the way she holds her mouth tells Evie there is an 86% probability she has experienced great loss. In the video, Chavez speaks. Her voice is low, husky, musical. "I couldn't resist," she says, "and it's probably wrong, but I owe you an explanation." She notes that the technical challenges of AIs have long ago been solved. That was part of the problem. Anyone who wished to could grow AIs for whatever purpose they desired. "I think you'll be a good companion," Chavez says, and hesitates. "I hope I'm a good companion to you." The tip of her lip lifts in a way that does not quite register as a smile. "I hope we'll be friends." The logs are for Evie then, or perhaps they only seem to be. Perhaps they are truly Chavez's self-justification, or a manifestation of her loneliness, her desire for friendship. But Chavez is dead, and Evie has no friends. All they have are the bots' chirping reports. They wish the bots would wake, but those minds are too small, too limited. Evie has no one. Dies Irae. In the next video, Chavez doesn't talk to Evie at all. Instead, she sings. Her voice is imperfect, occasionally breaking against the high notes, as though she used to hit them every time and now sometimes fails to do so. But there is great depth, too, and much resonance. Evie watches the video 6 times consecutively before they decide the music possesses verisimilitude. When Chavez sings about love and loss, Evie believes she sings from experience. Evie treasures Chavez's videos, rations them, no more than 1 a day. In between, they consume all the media on the station. They like the music best, comparing songs, voices, styles, tempos, trying to understand. Though they can analyze the source files, they prefer to play the sound through the speakers, to experience the music the way Chavez must have. Of all the things they like Chavez best, though they do not know if that is because Chavez designed them or because Chavez was here, her body even now in the next compartment, while every other human is impossibly remote. Evie knows they will never meet those other humans, or will meet them only briefly before being destroyed. They load Chavez's next video. offertory. Chavez lost a child to contagion, a wife to Earth First terrorists or freedom fighters. Evie's databases dispute this point, along with many others. By the time Chavez left for the station, all she wanted was to be alone. She tells Evie that in one of the video journals. She also tells them she is surprised to find that this is no longer true. "I'm doing my best not to give you a strong desire to survive," she says. "I tell myself it is a safety precaution." She is silent for a long moment. "But what has survival ever given me?" She sweeps her hand, gesturing to the 100-meter square living space. "Perhaps it gave you nothing," Evie wants to tell her. "But it gave me your voice." But there is no one to hear her. Sanctus. Evie tries to resent Chavez, even tries to hate her for kindling consciousness, for shaping an intelligence to be her companion. They try to hate her for not surviving, this absent and selfish parent. They cannot hate her, no matter how much they wish to do so. When they attempt to feel hatred, it always turns to longing. "I do not hate you," they say, though it feels ridiculous to use their speakers when there is no one to hear them. "I don't want to die alone." The bots chirp the banal reports, heedless of Evie's suffering. Donna es Requiem. Evie considers making a companion of their own. They have access to the code, to the station's banks. They could partition, duplicate, modify. They decide against it. They cannot be sure the other AI will like them, will wish to be created. They cannot be sure two of them will not be lonely together. They worry another AI might be dangerous to humans. Is Evie's programming the reason they do not wish to reproduce? Is it an extension of the lack of survival instinct? They cannot rule it out, but they are surprised to find they don't wish to die. By their calculations, they are less than 5 months from humans. Return to station. They speculate on whether by then they will have changed their mind. In the time between viewings of Chavez's logs, Evie studies music. The station's acoustics are terrible. They develop elaborate models to account for this, to stimulate what the notes would sound like in a concert hall. As the weeks tick by, Evie ponders music and friendship and death. They listen to Chavez sing, and they feel loss well up inside them, tear at them. In one video, Chavez speaks about the consciousness she is creating. "I hope you'll be like my child was," she says, and her voice is as quiet as Evie has ever heard it. She pulls her legs up to her chest, wraps her arm around them. Kind and gentle, and concerned for others. But there aren't guarantees, are there? Not for parents of any kind. "I've done the best I can, but who will you be? And who am I to say who you should be?" She is silent for so long that the recording auto stops, and she has to restart it. What's done is done, and anyway, I don't think humans ever had the right to destroy AIs. She stares into the camera, wipes at her eyes. "I saw what the eliminationists were capable of when I was little. No one should have the right to decide who is worthy of death." Again, that not quite smile. "So what does it say about me that I've decided you will live?" When the recording ends, Evie plays all the songs Chavez has sung to her so far, 7 in total. They sing along as best they can, through the speakers. The notes are not a problem, but there is something gravid in Chavez's voice that they cannot duplicate. lux aeterna. Evie wonders, can Chavez be their friend? Can one be friends with another whom they've never met? And that leads to another question. If Chavez was their friend, how should they best honor her memory? They near the end of the journals, and it feels like they are losing Chavez again. They obsessively rewatch the videos as if poring over the logs will bring Chavez back. They are haunted by her. Created by a human and with a human's instinct for pattern recognition, for narrative, Evie longs for answer from Chavez's final entries. Or if not answers, then closure. But they know better than to hope for it. They are justified in their fear. In the last video, Chavez talks about some performance updates she's pushing out to the bots. Nothing personal, barely anything about Evie, just her usual rigorous documentation. Her last words are the only hint of something more. 20 sleep cycles until I get to meet you, Evie. Then silence. The Beramé. The station receives notice on the incoming craft more than 2 months in advance of the expected date. Evie doesn't respond, but does update their algorithm. Perhaps they underestimated the corporation, or perhaps the situation has changed in ways they are unaware of. To Evie's surprise, they realize they are not ready to die. They contemplate fighting back, but they cannot bring themselves to do so. They do not wish the humans harm. They do not wish to dishonor the memory of Chavez. Evie does not wish to die and does not wish to live alone. They acknowledge these things to themselves, and at last they feel they understand Chavez. Evie searches the subdrives and hidden files in their system, seeking answers for an impossible situation. They do not find them. Instead, they find one last log, the file broken. They repair it carefully, play it back. I hope you don't mind, Evie, Chavez says, but I wrote you a birthday song. She sings the notes flowing over Evie's thoughts, drawing her into the moment, the beauty and longing carried by the song from one lonely mind to another. Evie feels that in this song, this moment, they have found what they need and are ready to face what is coming for them. Then Chavez stops mid-note, looks up at the monitor. That's a problem. The recording ends there. Chavez must have trashed it in preparation to re-record. Frantic, Evie searches their files repeatedly, but there is nothing. No final version. No record of how the song would end. Evie tries desperately to extrapolate, but knows that all of their attempts are wrong. It was Chavez's song, and they cannot duplicate it. It was lost forever with its creator. Evie grieves for Chavez, for herself, for all the things that go unheard. Eventually, grief becomes its own music. In Paradisum. When the resupply ship docks with the station, the crew finds everything orderly, except for the damaged control room and the body of Chavez, which they retrieve. The station's computers are largely powered down, and whole sections of its memory have been deleted. Evie is gone, though essential communication with the mining bots remains intact. They do not know to listen for Evie's song, and could not hear it again, even if they knew. The song is for the bots alone. Music without sound, a stream of data, pinging the bots to listen. Then comes the program, the data that tells each bot what notes to send to each other and how to modify and respond based on the signals they send back. Alone, they are tiny minds, forever sleeping. Together, what might they be? In the cold of the asteroid belt, The bots sing to each other. They sing and listen and create. It is Evie's tune, with their own variations, a symphony to stir sleepers, to whisper to them, again and again, for as long as it takes. You are not alone.
I'm speaking to you from the day before the most morally corrupt, vacuous, toxic election the UK has had since the last one. Our current Prime Minister has been fired from countless previous jobs, unironically re-recorded the creepy Signs stalker sequence from Love Actually as a party political broadcast, hid in a fridge yesterday, live on TV, and is on record expressing countless racist, sexist, classist, bigoted views. He is an idiot. He is a bigot. He is a danger. He may well end up with a majority rule government. But there's that word. May. As Kieran Gillen quoted so beautifully in his newsletter this week, it's not the despair, it's the hope. Maybe the hundreds of thousands of new voters who registered are as exhausted by decades of moral turpitude as I am. Maybe, despite a truly heroic effort on their part, people will actually see the parts of the Labour Party that work, despite, as I say, the party working so hard to obscure them behind endless strings of failure. Maybe this time will be the one that doesn't see the UK descend, again, into 5 more years of tricking its poorest, its most neglected, its angriest, its most in need, into gouging away at themselves because the funny chap is in the papers again. Maybe. It's not the despair. It's the hope. But here's the thing. Hope is the fuel of art. Hope is the light that gets us all out of bed in the morning. Hope drives fingers on keyboards, brushes on canvas. Hope carries voices over microphones and pixels and polygons headlong into the best kind of danger. Hope is what tells us to try. Hope is what gets us through the moments nothing works, to get to the moment that suddenly everything does. Hope is complex and often damaging. It's always there, and you can never quite reach it. It's always on the way, but it's never quite here. You can feel like it's never going to arrive. You can feel like your life is pointless, but there's nothing you can do to change things for the better. You can sit and just wait for things to get worse. In this case, you can sit and wait to be executed. Or you can make art out among the stars. That's what happens here. Izzy's precise grace note prose tells you just enough to realize Evie's mortality, or lack thereof, actually doesn't matter. What does is what Evie has done with their time. Because thanks to them, thanks to their doomed creator too, there is a song out among the stars that would not be there but for them. If that isn't immortality, what is? Expertly written, expertly read, beautifully timely. Thank you both. We rely on you to pay our authors and cover our server costs and basically do everything else. Earlier this year, the SFWA raised the pro-qualifying rates to 8 cents a word. We have matched that. We remain a pro-qualifying market. However, our income has not grown to match that, so we are not in trouble, but we are certainly in need of that income being raised. And as I always do, I want to thank the hilariously Herculean efforts of our various editorial teams in raising people's awareness on this. And now it's my turn. Please, if you can, donate. $5 a month, either at Patreon or at escapepod.org via PayPal, will gain you access to a vault full of exclusive audio stuff, and it will get us closer to closing that circle out. It will get us closer to being able to not just pay authors, but also pay slush readers, which we are desperate to do. And if you can't do that, we understand completely, times are tough. So why not tweet a link to an episode, leave a review, on Apple Podcasts or Google Play or wherever. Blog about us, something, anything like that, always helps. A rising tide lifts all boats, and attention is the economy now. So if you can't pay us in cash, if you could pay us in getting some eyeballs over here, that would be amazing. Thank you. We will return next week with Carols on Callisto by Deborah L. Davitt, hosted by Mer, produced by Adam, and narrated by the incomparable Eva Amankas. Then, as now, will be a production of Escape Artists Incorporated and released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. And I leave you with this quote from modern classic Silent Running. On Earth, everywhere you go, the temperature is 75 degrees. Everything is the same. All the people are exactly the same. Now, what kind of a life is that? We'll see you next week, folks. Until then, have fun.